Welcome to the channel, folks. My name's Shane. In today's video, we're checking out a brand new wireless pack from 7RYMS. This is the iRay DW20 Pro. It's a 2.4 gigahertz dual transmitter to single receiver wireless pack. Before we get started, a huge thank you to 7RYMS for sending this out for the review. I really appreciate it. Like always, I'll give you the pros and cons at the end of this video. I'll timestamp each section down in the description as well. We'll do the all-important distance test, vlogging test, and we're also going to compare the audio up against what I'm using right now, the Saramonic Blink500 Pro, which so far has been the best sounding onboard microphone I've used in any pack. There's been a few that have come close, but I keep going back to the Blink500 Pro, so it'll be interesting to see just how well the 7RYMS compares, and then I'll talk about those results at the end of the video. All of the audio that you'll be listening to today is thanks to my Panasonic GH5 II and its great sounding 3.5mm audio input jack. Let's see what we get in the box. Included, we get an instruction manual. We get two audio cables. This is the 3.5mm audio cable that's designed to be used with any type of mirrorless camera that supports that 3.5mm plug. Included, we also get a TRS to TRRS connector, which has the extra ring on it. These are designed for phones that support that 3.5mm input. Additionally, we also get this 3 USB-C to USB-A cable. This is designed to charge all three of the units at one time, or we can just simply charge the case, and I'll show you that in just a moment. We get two of these wind filters. These are designed just to go straight onto the transmitters. We get two high-quality lavalier microphones, and I say high quality just based on the sheer build quality of these cables. They do feel really solid. Here's the charging case up close. This is built like an absolute brick. One of the cool things about it is we get a USB-C port on the back, which allows the case to hold its own charge, so you can charge the internal transmitters and receiver nice and simply, and look how neat and tidy everything is on the inside. Let's take a look at the receiver and transmitters up close. Now, one of the things you'll notice as soon as you get this open is how well magnetized these are in place. So if you plan on moving these around, or if you leave the lid open, they're not going to fall out. That's a really great touch. Here's the transmitter up close. We get our power button on the front. We also get our little LCD screen here. On the top of the unit, we have our audio output, which is designed to go to your camera or smartphone, whatever the case may be. There's also a headphone output for real-time audio monitoring. On this side of the unit, we get an A and B button. This adjusts the volume for each of the transmitters. It's nice and simple. We also get a USB-C port over here. The power button on the front also doubles as the mode button. This gives us three different modes to choose from. Mono mode, which is great for what I'm doing right now, where I've got a single transmitter just going into my camera. It will give me a very balanced audio recording on my final product. Then we get stereo mode as the second option, and this will split both transmitters on the left and right channels of audio. This is great for an interview situation where you want more flexibility in post. There's also the safety track option, which is a really welcomed addition to this. One of the only other packs I've seen with that is the Rode Wireless Go 2. This allows you to record in stereo, but have one section of your audio recorded louder or softer than the other. So if something gets really loud quickly, you can switch over to the safety track and it won't be clipped. Really cool addition. Here's one of the 7RYMS transmitters up close. Now, on the top of the unit here, we have our omnidirectional built-in microphone. We also get a 3.5mm lavalier microphone input over here as well. So if you want to use one of the provided lavalier microphones, you plug it in here, and this one will be disabled by default. Now, we also get this little fluffy guy right here, which is great for shooting outdoors. One of the benefits of this is you can simply click it in, turn it slightly, and it's not going to fall out. This windsock is one of the best designed ones so far. On this side of the transmitter, we get a pair button just in case it doesn't pair when you take it out of the case, which is highly unlikely given today's technology, but if you do need to pair it manually, you can hold this down. We also get a mute button over here, as well as another USB-C port down the bottom. Let's talk about the clips. The clips on both the transmitter and receiver are extremely strong. I would have no problems recommending this in terms of build quality. It's really high tension, and as you can see under here, there's actually some teeth, so it will grip into place without any issues. Before we get into the specs, I want to do a quick audio comparison. You're currently listening to the Saramonic Blink500 Pro, the same pack you were listening to before. Let's switch it over to the 7RYMS. And now you're listening to the 7RYMS iRay DW20 Pro Wireless Pack. Can you hear a huge difference between this and the Saramonic Blink500 Pro? Let's switch it back. And back to the Saramonic Blink500 Pro. Can you hear a huge difference? The wind's kicked up quite a lot now, so we're also going to test out whether or not these windsocks are doing the job on both packs. I'll comment on this again, as I mentioned at the end. And now back to the 7RYMS iRay DW20 Wireless Pack. Now this particular windsock screws and kind of locks into place a lot better, so if you're going to be doing a lot of outdoor stuff, if the audio quality is good, which I'll comment on later, this actual windsock works a treat. Over to the all-important distance test. Now while this pack is rated at 100 meters, I'm not going to go back 100 meters. Sorry to spoil this particular thing for you if you were waiting to see 100 meters away, but that's quite a long way. That's like 300 plus feet. There's no way I'm walking that far away from my camera in a public park. So what I'm going to do is just keep walking backwards like this, facing the camera, which is giving us true line of sight, so nothing's obscuring the signal. Now, as I turn around, it has the potential to cut out because line of sight is broken. Anytime it cuts out, I'll leave some annotations on screen and we can see whether or not it worked in that particular test. Now, it also comes down to how fast does the pack recover if line of sight is broken and you do lose your signal. Some packs are terrible at recovery and you won't get any audio once they break. It's a terrible thing. So I expect this, if it does cut out, to still work and reconnect very quickly. 7RYMS has been pretty great so far. Let's do another turnaround test now and we'll see how well this works. If it cut out or did anything funny, I'll leave some annotations on screen. At this distance, with line of sight being broken, I would expect it to cut out. So I'm all the way back down here. What I'm going to do is just start walking casually back towards the camera to replicate a walk and talk shot. You might be interviewing someone and you're just doing a casual stroll in the park or down the street, whatever the case may be. And we're going to see just how well it handles this particular test and how much of the traffic noise, wind noise, foot noise can you hear coming through this built-in omnidirectional microphone. I'll comment on this as well at the end because I always give you my opinion once I've got it through editing. I've listened and watched everything back and I can assess what it's doing and how well that it did it. If this video is helpful, please leave a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Let's do a quick vlogging test using the 7RYMS DW20 Wireless Pack. One of the huge advantages to a wireless pack if you plan on doing any type of vlogging is I can position the camera wherever I like or turn away from the camera and the audio is still going to be nice and clear. So this is a huge advantage over a shotgun microphone. There's lots of loud cars and trucks just going by, so we'll see how well it handles isolating my voice in this type of environment, but odds are this should sound pretty good, and judging from the footage, it looks nice and stable. Panasonic IRay, man, awesome. Let's cover some of the important specifications and what they mean in a practical sense. So the iRay DW20 Pro runs on the 2.4 gigahertz band. This means you're going to get very low latency, under 20 milliseconds, even at the furthest distance away from the receiver. The latency is going to be very minimal. The second benefit to this 2.4 gigahertz digital band is there's no static or interference. It's a point-to-point connection and you get a really reliable signal. When it comes to weight, the transmitters and receiver all weigh 28 grams each, so they're insanely light. Now, as soon as you start incorporating the case, it weighs a lot more. But if you just want to take the pack with you and charge them on the go, you can take that USB-A to USB-C charging cable with you and do it that way if you want to save on the weight. But the charging case is always a really welcomed addition. Now, additionally, you'd think that you wouldn't get much runtime being that they're so small, but you get 6.5 hours runtime on a single charge. Let's talk about the microphones built into each of the transmitters. They have an omnidirectional polar pattern, which means they're going to pick up sound from all around. You see a lot of YouTubers using these in an interview situation because both people can just talk to each other, but the microphone will pick up each person very clearly. This is one of the huge benefits of an omnidirectional mic. When it comes to the frequency response, we get a frequency response of 80 Hertz to 20 kilohertz. So we get all the way up there at the top end, but we also lose a little bit of low end with this particular pack. You probably noticed when I switched back and forth between the Saramonic had more low end, but you can always add that back in post, and I'll show you a sample of that now. Before we get into the specs, I want to do a quick audio comparison. You're currently listening to the Saramonic Blink500 Pro, the same pack you were listening to before. Let's switch it over to the 7RYMS. And now you're listening to the 7RYMS iRay DW20 Pro Wireless Pack. Can you hear a huge difference between this and the Saramonic Blink500 Pro? Let's switch it back. As you can hear now, they both sound very comparable. One of the benefits to having less low end when it comes to an omnidirectional microphone is they're going to be far less prone to picking up a lot of the sound you don't want on your recording. It's easier to add low end back into your sound as opposed to removing frequencies that might ruin your audio. In a controlled studio situation like this, I much prefer having 20 Hertz to 20 kilohertz because I won't need to do anything to it in post. But when I'm outdoors in the park, having an 80 Hertz to 20 kilohertz pack also makes a lot of sense. All right, let's wrap this video up. I'm gonna give you the pros and cons of the 7RYMS iRay DW20 Pro Wireless Pack. What I love about it, its simplicity. Hooking this up is far more simple than every other pack that I've used. Hook it up, you can see exactly what you're doing thanks to the built-in LCD screens on each of them. And then you're good to go. I love the fact you get a safety track option, mono and stereo at the click of a button. You don't need to go diving through menus. So it gets the big thumbs up there. I think the usability of this pack far surpasses even the Blink500 Pro based on its simplicity. Secondly, I love the case design. I think everything just fits in here beautifully. When I compare it up against the size of the Blink500 Pro case, there's a huge difference. I much prefer this, and I also like how much better magnetized they are within the case over the Blink500 Pro. That case does have some magnets, but this one is far better. Thirdly, you get everything in the box you need to get going. So if you want to take it outside and use it on a really windy day, you can use the onboard microphones with the provided windshields, or if you're in a studio situation or an interview situation and you want to use a lavalier microphone and keep that off your shirt, you can do that as well. So that's the benefit of the lav microphones. They're a little bit more inconspicuous. Sometimes it's the little things that impress me. I love the fact we get a USB to 3-point USB-C cable, so we can charge all the units individually with one cable instead of 3. Other brands are still providing 3 USB-C cables. It's crazy. This just solves that whole issue. When it came to the vlogging test and distance test, this pack performed beautifully. There's only one other pack that I've tested that worked as well once I started turning around at a distance away from the camera, and that was from Sonicake. It actually outperformed the Blink500 Pro. This worked flawlessly as well, so I would have no hesitations recommending this for my own use case anytime I'm outdoors shooting in the park. Now, if I had to nitpick and criticize this pack at all, it would come down to 2 features. One, the LCD screens. They're awesome and you can see them easily in the daytime, but you can't see them with polarized sunglasses. This isn't a deal breaker, but it's worth mentioning if you like me and you love wearing polarized sunglasses. Secondly, the frequency response on the omnidirectional microphone might not be for everybody. If you don't know how to add EQ back in post, then of course you might prefer a different pack. But again, if you're going to be shooting outdoors, having 80 Hz to 20 kHz isn't a problem, at least for me whatsoever. At the end of the day, you get everything you need to get going with this pack, and the audio quality is really good. I would have no hesitations using this, and I plan on using it out in the park when I shoot future videos. Thanks again for watching. Catch you soon. See ya.